Hello everyone, Mr. Happy Zap here once again. Update on my humble abode. Right now I'm standing in what I call my great room. It's the largest room in the house, containing my kitchen and living room. And today I guess I'm going to talk about painting and what you need to do to prep for painting now. In my case here, of course, I guess you can class this as a new build. Even though it's a major renovation, should you be doing any drywall in your renovations instead of just painting over existing walls? There is a process that I find that I've been explained to and I've been doing here that should and needs to be done if you want nice, smooth, painted walls. And the first process is once again, make sure your drywall is properly installed, screwed in, and mudded. And once, and let it dry well. This drywall here now has probably been installed, maybe a month ago, and it's had mud has had a good chance to dry. And in the drying process, no matter, how good the drywall guys, try and be in it, they try and be as good. Sometimes, like I don't know if you can see here, like there's a screw hole here. You can feel it and it's flat across. But sometimes, as the mud shrinks, you get it shows little divots in here. It actually divots. So before you start your process, go around and just feel those the screw holes. And if you have any little indentation, take the what they call spackling or spot putty or whatever, and go along and just quickly fill them in. That stuff dries pretty quick. Give it a quick sand. You take your 220 grit paper on a hand sander and just give it a good just give it a quick sand so it's basically flush with everything else. Now once you've done that, then comes the hard part. And I have a new appreciation now, even though I have a very good buddy of mine that's used to paint houses, and you always say it's pretty heavy duty, and I go okay, but now doing this I can appreciate those type of good painters because what they do for preparation. Now first thing you have to do is, once again, after you've done your finalization on your whatever small imperfections that you might find, you got to go and vacuum down the walls. And so you just take your shop vac, and I bought a brush like this. You can get a larger one, more surface area, but kind of like a hand, so it's like a wand. So you kind of you have to literally slowly as you sweep across, and vacuum will suck up the dust as you go along, because you really don't want any dust when you're putting on your primer. Now, where there is actual mud on the wall, you could sit there and brush forever because that mud is very fine and you're literally sanding it again. So you just got to give it a quick, just try and get as much of the dust off as you can, and do it all the way around. And then once you're done that, then comes the next fun part. You get out your little Swiffer gizmo, put on your Swiffer pad, and then you got to go along and and literally Swiffer off walls, ceilings, and whatnot to get that last little bit of dust off. And believe me, you'll be changing pads on that like no tomorrow. And even I found once again, where you're in that mud area, you could Swiffer forever, because you're basically, once again, even though that Swiffer is very soft, it's still sanding a bit. So eventually you got to stop somewhere. So once you've done all that, then you can go ahead and primer. Now I've already primered the ceiling, and what will happen is, once you primer the ceiling, you might again find some small imperfections as you go along. And so when you do that, you take your spot putty out or spackle or whatever, and because believe me, you won't see all the small little divots when you're doing the vacuuming and the Swiffering, because just of the color of the drywall, and you don't see it. But as soon as you do put on your primer coat, those other small divots, I call them, like the indents, they'll show up. Once again, put a little bit of spackle in there, and hopefully it'll smoothen it out. Let it dry. take your brush, kind of give it a quick, finish it off with your primer. And then basically hope for the, hope for the best, I guess. And then once you've done that, then put on your paint. But once you've done the primer coat, though, once again, to have a nice smooth finish, you got to go along and take it and sand it. And of course, you got one of these sanders on a handle, which has got a kind of a funky angly thing on there. But once again, 220 grit paper. Go along and you sand it out to smoothen it out. And believe me, especially the walls, I've done this. I've been told you don't have to do the ceilings, but I do the ceilings. I did the ceilings anyway, just because I'm doing it. But especially the walls, you can actually go along and just lightly sand it. Don't put much pressure on it, and you wouldn't believe the difference in the texture going from what you've sanded to what is like rough primer, I'll call it. And like I said, there's quite a bit of difference, and I've done probably half the house already, I guess. And when you do put on your final coat of paint, it is much, much more smooth, and it looks a lot better, has a better sheen to it, and you can just tell it's it looks like a professional job. I'm not saying that I did a professional job, but it gives that professional look to it. And that's what you're going to be paying for. So when a painter comes along to give you an estimate, and you go, wow, that's high, ask them what they're doing. And if they give you the indication of what I just explained about it, then you're going to get a good, clean finish, durable finish, and all that lovely stuff. Now I know in the factory homes, what I call factory homes, where they just knock them down, bang, 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 one after the other. Drywallers come in, they do their thing, and unless the painters come in and do what I just explained, most of them just go along, they I guess look for the biggest holes, try and fill them in, but a lot of them use sprayers, and they just spray the paint on, primer and spray the paint on. Now I've never seen, in my years in construction, never seen the so-called, I'll call them factory painters, once again, construction painters, and I haven't seen too many of them go along and actually sand down the primer coat before they paint the actual paint on the wall. And I can see just what I've done where there's a big difference in doing that. Now, if you have an older home and you're repainting walls, once again, make sure you wash your walls down, because I've seen a lot of people just paint over dirty walls, and that is not the way to do things. And the proper way to do it is actually get what they call a product called TSP. And this TSP, you clean your walls, and then you take the TSP. And what the TSP does is, from my understanding of it, is it kind of I don't know if I would call roughens up the old paint or opens up the pores in the old paint, but it does something to the old paint. It cleans it as well, but it also does something to the old paint that allows the new paint to adhere a lot better. So, but keeping that in mind, that's once again a time-consuming thing. It's work. And when you use that TSP, you got to make sure and go behind it and rinse it off, rinse those walls off really well before you do apply your paint coat. Everything here, I've got a new appreciation for good painters, because it is labor intensive. It's physical. It's hard on the shoulders, neck, and the back. So you got to be in pretty darn good shape if you're doing out a whole. I imagine this is only a 900 square foot house. I can imagine these guys painting out 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 square foot houses. Holy smokes. That can be trying on the physical end of things. But when you do it and you get it done, you've done it to the best of your ability, and it looks nice and smooth and as professional looking as possible, it gives you a sense of accomplishment, believe me. So I guess the gist of this video is you need to do proper preparing before you put on, because the paint is, that's the last thing that people see. That's just what people see, and anything underneath it is going to show up. And no matter how hard you try, in my bedroom here, I didn't do I'm a little disappointed in my workmanship on the ceiling. This is the first room I did. There's a little bit of imperfections in the painting with the roller. Of course, over here, where it looks really good, of course it's over there. I don't know, I wish I could flip it around that way. It would look nice and smooth on this end of it. There are a few areas where I didn't get in, and a few little indents here and there, but as I went along, they showed up, after the fact, after I put on the primer and I went along, and then when I put on the first coat of paint, I go, holy smokes, there's more of them. It's like ants. They're coming from everywhere. But you know what? For the most part, when you look in the room, you really can't see them anyway. So it all depends on how anal you really want to get on your finish. Here in the bathroom, I have a few imperfection spots. I got a spot up there. I got paint on the ceiling because that roller went up in. But and then at the same time, cutting in the corners to the ceiling. That's once again very time consuming. And put on the loud music and just tell everybody to leave while you're doing that. But like I said, once you are done, it does give you that sense of accomplishment. So. But just take your time, and you'll get a good you'll get a good result. I guess that's the gist of this. Once again, of this video here is preparation, and like they say, you can't make silk out of a sow's ear, and that's basically if all you're doing is trying to get the paint to kind of take that little indent, hoping that it'll fill it in. No, it's not going to work. Not to any degree of success. You might get lucky, but when you're doing a lot of it, a lot of square footage area, you're going to have, it'll always be in a spot where it's going to stick out like a sore thumb. Of course, along these walls here, I'm going to have all cabinetry and tile and everything. So does it matter? Not really. But if you don't do it in this spot, that means you're not going to do it over there. So you have to keep yourself consistent. So anyway, just thought I'd give you that little update, and little places coming along here, and we'll talk to you later. This is Mr. Happy Zap saying once again, keep a cool tool. Bye for now.